So I recently picked up a friend of mine from a local grocery store in the area, and when he got in the car, he seemed very distraught about something, and I was curious as to what happened. Now, I thought the $10 a pound ground beef or the $8 bag of tangerines might have been enough of a red flag, but apparently it wasn't. And he told me that he had talked to a woman there who worked there, and that the interaction, at least at face value, seemed to go well. And he said that he had asked for her phone number and that she opted to want to exchange social medias. Now, my buddy does not use social media. He is someone who is very much living and is a proponent of a more kind of analog life. And really, he sees social media for what it is, quite frankly. But when he told her that he does not have a social media, she said that it is creepy. She ended the interaction there. And I told my friend directly, dude, you shouldn't care what she thinks. You shouldn't have any care in the world what a woman like that thinks or says. I guarantee you, even if he would have had a social media, she would have found something else that doesn't suit her fancy. And the guy's 6'3", so she would have had to run down the list. I'm sure she would have eventually found something. Because I've even heard of things like this happening. Actually, this happened to a cousin of mine, where he ended up talking to a girl. He ended up exchanging information with her. And she saw that he had a social media, but that he didn't have a big catalog of posts and wasn't posting anything recently. And she said the same thing. She said that she thought it was creepy. She thought it was weird. Now, when I hear stuff like this, and then I see modern women who say things along the lines of why are men not approaching women anymore in public, that they want men to return to dating and stuff like that, when they are the epitome of why men aren't doing those things, all while at the same time, with their social medias, they will be posting things on there that are really the epitome as to why men do not want to date anymore. I've seen women who their whole catalog on their social media account will be pictures at a nightclub, pictures at a rave. They'll be following things they shouldn't be following, all different kinds of reasons to not want to have anything to do with her. And I'll put it directly. The reason why men stopped approaching is in part because for many years, they've been told that they are a creep for things like this. You have women who their default response to even getting eye contact from a man is to say that he's a creep. Mind you, this is if he has no intention of wanting to date her or anything beyond a casual conversation. She's just a woman who's the cashier at a grocery store. They will try to say that he's a creep. And of course, we all know that it varies in terms of if they find the guy attractive based on whatever unrealistic standard or social media standard or dating app standard they're using nowadays. We all know that's the case. But most men now have totally opted out, just like the buddy of mine who dealt with a thing at the grocery store. Now, he's someone who took some time off of, which I don't want to get into his personal business, but he did say that I could talk about this. He spent some time kind of isolated from society, I'll put it that way, for a number of years. And of course, dating apps were still a thing back then, back when he was more kind of around the city I was in. But he said, even from the short time that he's been back, just of how downhill things have gotten now. My thing is this, I'd argue it's, of course, things were never perfect. I think that's really gotten out of hand recently. But you could argue that this thing that's been going on for many years, even decades, it's just now we're kind of seeing almost the perfect storm come together, right? But men looked at the deal, much like my friend has now. They've looked at the offer and they have decided to walk away. For example, let's say you're trying to sell your car or something like that, right? Or you're trying to sell something online and someone makes you an offer that's a lot less than what you would have wanted to take. You're obviously going to decline it. You're not going to want to take part in that. And that's exactly how men feel when it comes to looking at the deal and the offer of dating nowadays in modern women. And You just look at women, because I want to talk about social media since I guess it was the subject of discussion with what my friend dealt with. But you even look at the things women are posting on there, and quite frankly, the things that they are doing on there, thinking that they're going to get attention and validation. I'll put it this way. When I was a kid, I used to play a wrestling game. And this was back when I was a lot younger, and you bought the game and you would go down the aisle at the store and you'd have the disc in hand. But I would do kind of character customization. And anyone who knows, who's done that in a video game, knows that with a little bit too much freedom, you might make some very kind of, odd things, right? I remember in the wrestling game, I had a character who he ended up becoming green and his shoulders were out to here and all this kind of stuff. But when I see modern women and all these so-called enhancements that really do the opposite, that they are doing to themselves, lips going past here, all this kind of stuff, it looks absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to call it like I see it. And that is in part the damage that social media has done. If it's not to them in terms of the way they think, it is physically. It is physically. Most of the influences that women get on there, or just have in general, I would say are negative, and along the lines of how not to be a wife, how not to be a mother, being told that men aren't needed. And that's just getting started on the behavior stuff. I mean, look at a lot of the podcasts that younger women are watching. You'll understand exactly what men are talking about. But you combine that with the phone and you get exactly what we have today. And I want to add on that too, because this idea that you match with a girl on a dating app or you exchange social media. When I was a lot younger, even when you would exchange the phone numbers, you wouldn't spend a whole lot of time texting. There wasn't as many games and that kind of stuff. It would be a phone call. I remember back when I was younger when you would just call the person. But now it's all these games over text. It's who replied last. It's how long do you take to reply. It is all these hoops and hurdles and then acting like men are mind readers. And then when you don't show interest, they want to chase. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. If there isn't mutuality and understanding and respect for a man's time, it is not going to happen. That's why so many men have opted out, because there are none of those things. We're not mind readers. First of all, we have our own family responsibilities. We all have our own monetary, financial responsibilities. We have hobbies, we have skills, we have things we need to do. We don't have time for games. If you're not someone who's going to add value into our lives, then why would we want to pursue? Why would we want to approach? But when it comes to dating apps, because I'm on the subject of the phone here, when it comes to dating apps, I've seen this notion, because I think men are waking up now, and they have been waking up for some time in terms of this, but this idea that women on dating apps are actually looking for something serious, and it's desperate men who are trying to match with them, and it's a bunch of men trying to compete for the same woman. All of these different kind of things I completely disagree with. I don't agree at all. Anyone watching this who is Gen Z or millennial knows that dating apps have been a forefront part of the times. I'll put it that way. But when they say that men are on there doing that kind of stuff, it's quite the opposite, because women are on there looking for attention and validation. Men have opted out. Let's not forget, men are not using them like they did 5 to 10 years ago. They've opted out completely. And this notion that there is somehow this large array of men who are single that don't want to be single, because people talk about charts in terms of, I've seen statistics along the lines of a certain percentage, a larger percentage of men under 30 being single compared to women. And they will look at those kind of things and think, oh, well, men are doing poorly, when they're really doing better. I'll tell you something right now. The people who I know that have dealt with things, that have hit rock bottom, are the ones who have dealt with women and marriage and divorce and custody battles and losing. And when it's really not half your stuff, it's more like 75, 80% of your stuff, to be completely honest. The people who I've seen that are the most lonely a lot of the time are the ones who are in relationships, not the ones who are single. Most men that I know that are single are very successful. I'll put it that way. They're very successful. They're successful in results in the gym, with their financial predicament, with having a good connection with their family and close friends. They're not falling behind. But when it comes to these things, what it really comes down to is women are in love with the phone because they are in love with their own egos, and they are using the phone to project that. That's what it comes down to. And even with dating apps, this notion that women are any good, I don't see it any different than going to a nightclub or a bar to find a woman. I had a friend of mine actually recently who went on a date with a woman that he met on a dating app. And she was the epitome of every single red flag people talk about. Wasn't looking for anything serious. Wanted to meet him at 10 at night. And he went to pick her up. She lived super far away. And then was insisting to go back to his house. Why? So he could have a false allegation? He doesn't even know this woman. He just met her in the span of an hour. She's begging to go back to his house. Meanwhile, not understanding that he has work the next morning. So being really not understanding boundaries, being inconsiderate. And then come to find out that really that's all she wanted to do, which that tells you she's not looking for anything serious. This is a woman who is in her early to mid-20s, who's just ruining herself. That's what it comes down to. They're absolutely ruining themselves. So let them do that. And focus on what you need to focus on, your mission and purpose. But it's become apparent that with all that kind of stuff, with the social media, with the dating apps, and I'm not saying that men just sit there scrolling nonstop, because before you know it, hours are going to go by your day doing that. But women cannot handle social media and endless options. They just can't. It's become apparent by now. I mean, it certainly has for some time, but they just can't. They are so caught up with comparing and what other people have and all these different kinds of things. Whereas if you're a man looking at that, which pretty much everyone I know barely even posts on there. But if you are a man looking at that, you obviously know to do things not for them, not for other people, but for yourself. If you're going to get a nice watch or a nice car, you don't do it to flaunt on there. And if you're going to do it for them, let them be your family. Let it be the people in your circle, the people that are actually relevant in your life, not everyone else. And even on the way home today, I saw a woman who was on her phone in one hand, handbag in the other, walking across the street, and just her facial expression and her body language, to me, just screamed entitlement, narcissistic, undateable, thing in the world revolves around you. You see it a lot nowadays, and it is exactly why so many men are walking away. Like my friend dealt with that thing at the grocery store. I felt there's a part of me that was upset, of course, because I don't want to see my friend be disrespected. But that's kind of the usual with modern women nowadays. For her to make a silly comment of social media, I'm sure we all remember a time where we used MapQuest and that kind of stuff. But when there wasn't so much focus on what was in our pockets, when it comes to dating, when it comes to all different kinds of things, people think that it creates boredom, but through boredom, I think there's an aspect of creativity. Now it's just notifications nonstop, all these different things, all these different distractions. That's why I think it is important for men to tune out of those kind of things. Like, for example, I have social media, but I have notifications off. The only times I go on there, which I could arguably not do at all, but the only times that I go on there are to talk to a few people in particular who are long distance where it would cost money to call them or text them the conventional way. But there are even obviously alternatives to that. But I think that things have come to the point where it really isn't even boredom. It wouldn't be boredom. It would be time for yourself to think, to not have the pressure of the world, if that makes sense. And nonetheless, I think men can handle it a lot more than women can. That's just what I've seen. That's just my observation. But as always, guys, I appreciate you for viewing the video. And when it comes to these kinds of interactions, just the dismissiveness and all that kind of stuff, I would just say walk away. That's ultimately what it comes down to. I would just say walk away. Do not play this game, because I've seen men who will play the game. I've seen it, over the years, but I think certainly more men are waking up en masse, really. But, don't play the game of pedestalizing women, treating them like they're their prize, and then compromising your self-respect to get attention from someone who's not even going to be loyal in the first place. So, again, guys, I appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.